Something you're waiting for is finally here, a detailed overview of CCH Axcess tax software. So I've been using this tax software for the last 5 years. So I'm going to show you the functionality of the tax software, and together we'll prepare individual tax return. So kind of like medium complexity one. So I'll make sure that in less than 1 hour you'll become an expert in CCH Axcess. Let's start. Alrighty guys, so let's start. I'm super excited to just like in 20-30 minutes to show you how to prepare actually like a kind of complex 1040 in CCH Axcess. So let's start. So I'll start with honestly, I love CCH Axcess, and I'm gonna tell you everything about it. I'm gonna show you the flow of the program, the functionality, and we'll prepare individual 1040 using like a couple documents I saved. So I saved like W2, 1099 consolidated, 1099 interest, 1099 dividends, 1099R, itemized deductions, and some Schedule C, something like that. So it will be like super simple, but at the same time, like the items that most likely you will use when you prepare 1040 every single time. Awesome. So first of all, I love CCH Axcess. I do so much work in CCH Axcess, and I think this is the best, to be honest. It's expensive. I think it's really expensive, but it's worth it if you're building or you're working for a company that has a lot of tax returns, or you're trying to build a tax practice with like 500 plus tax return. I think CCH Axcess is the best in the kind because it's very reliable and it's just easy to automate a lot of stuff. And I think, majority of bigger firms that I work with, they use CCH Axcess. So before, let's say you become a huge company, you might use something else, but when you jump to between 500 to 1,000 tax return, I think CCH Axcess is a really good choice. So we'll start with the flow of the program and functionality, and then we'll switch into preparing 1040. So this is how CCH Axcess looks like when you open it. So basically it has so now I just filter for one tax return, but it will show you all the returns you have and the tax years. So I'm recording this for 2023 tax year. I just happened to open 2022, but honestly, this view changed a little bit since last year, but the view of actual tax return actually hasn't. So it hasn't changed in years. So it doesn't matter which year you're watching this video in, but this is 2023. This is how it looks like. But in any case, so let's go through general process. So when you open CCH Axcess, you have to download it. So it's an app that you have to install on your Windows computer. It doesn't work on Mac yet, but for Mac, I use different kind of stuff. I use Parallels. So that's something that lets you run Windows programs on Mac, or you can install a remote desktop and obviously access from Mac computer. But this is desktop Windows applications that you have to install on your computer from link on CCH Axcess website, and I'm gonna add a screen or something right now. So after you install it, you have to enter account number, login password, and then it will let you open this view, right? So here, if you want to create a new return, we go here, file new tax return, and we do add client ID, or we can search for client ID if it was already set up, the tax year, return type, and configuration and templates. Templates is basically if you want all the returns have the same specific items, let's say prepare, addresses, different kind of stuff. So you just set it up under templates and you choose template each time you create tax return. So that's how to create tax return, and you can choose what type. So it can be 1040 or business, or you name it. Let's see what else is here. If you want to open tax return, we can just click on one and do open or delete or stuff like that. Recent tax return and things like that. For view, so view, we can customize the toolbar. So here we can add or remove anything you do not like on your view. So for me, honestly, I'm okay with everything. What important for me is actually last activity. I like that because I want to see what happened. Because sometimes it shows that the signature was sent to the client, or it will just recalculate you, things like that. And federal e-file and state e-file, obviously, those two important to me. So I would like to have that. Everything else, it doesn't really matter too much as much. And then you can edit columns, change current view, save as a new view. So you can like set up a view and just save it for yourself and change it up and things like that. So this is just like kind of like if you want to change the view. Under manage, you can roll forward the tax return. What it actually means, so for example, if you prepare a 2022 tax return and you want to roll forward to 2023, the next year, so that's, you have to click on the prior year tax return and do manage roll forward. Or if you want to update tax return, take a look at return history, lock it, unlock it, things like that. Under e-file, okay, so e-file doesn't actually happen here, but you can take a look at e-file status, e-file upload report. So to e-file, we have to go somewhere else. We need to make sure return is ready for e-file, and then it takes you to another, to the browser that CCH Axcess is using, and you can e-file there, and you can take a look at like all kind of like e-filing statuses. Utilities. So if you need to back up the return, restore, rebuild, send to support, actually important one if you have some diagnostics and you're not sure how to clear them, or you don't know how to enter something, you can send it to, obviously, send to support. So that is really cool. I used it a lot, and support is amazing. Like lots of smart people really can help you out with any issues you can have. Transfer stuff, import, export. Okay, import, export, really awesome too, because we have like I've been working with a lot of new clients, and the actually exporting option, it exports the data from different tax softwares, and it's almost perfect from prior tax returns, right? So you can go on their website and see what they're competitive with, but I know Lacert, I think ProSerious, ProConnect, so lots of tax software, so that shouldn't be an issue. All right, and help, obviously, if you want to look for any help topics, resource center, like any kind of stuff. So that's where you can take a look. Alrighty, so more like what is here. So here is the same, new return, open, roll forward, we talked about, return history, export e-file status. You can, so those are shortcuts that we can also find here, but those are just some things that I would like to have like shortcuts for, but you can change it. There is an option to actually customize it, and you can choose whichever is more useful for you and your practice. Alrighty, so I think that's pretty much it. It's really cool options here. It has search results, so you can choose here the previous Axcess tax return. So like if they're not here, sometimes they can be out there. So I actually kind of like it. Oh well. All right. Awesome. So we're done with functionality and overview. So now let's switch to actual tax return preparation. So as a reminder, we're going to use all this information, interest, dividend, 1099Rs, consolidated 1099, and Schedule C and W2, of course, to prepare individual tax return. I'm going to show you how to clear diagnostics and yeah, how to prepare tax return. And also like I'll try to add some tricks and things like that that I like to use and what I found helpful. And also I think we're gonna go over each section, so I'm gonna like explain you what those things are, what are the most common ones that like we usually use, or which one are not as important, and things like that. Alrighty, let's have a quick break and let's dive in. Hey guys, and I'm really sorry to interrupt you for a second. Just quickly, I want to go over that I also sell online courses, so you can go over, you can go to my website, Remote CPA in LA, and take a look, get more information about the online courses I'm selling on tax preparation. So basically I have ProConnect, Drake, ProSerious, and now the new one, and some people were waiting for this one for almost like 6 months. I will have the CCH Axcess individual tax preparation course, so you can find it under my website, Remote CPA in LA. And basically, like, I'll show you what's inside and how it's structured. It will be available June 1st, so if you're watching it before, you can buy it and you can get it for a discounted price. Or if you're watching it after, please go to my website and grab yourself a course and, you know, become an expert in CCH Axcess. So here where you can purchase it, and also let me just go over how it looks like. So it will have many sections. So it will have like introduction, it will have income, common income items, so W2, interest, 1099R, you name it. Then it will have section about Schedule C, so I'm gonna get into detail. So what I do usually, I explain the theory behind taxation, right? And then I show, and as an example, how to use it in a tax software. and it has like a rental income, itemized deductions, credits, and also finally I have like advanced topics. So if you're an expert, you might still benefit from advanced topics. So it's a schedule, how to, sale of residences, sale of business assets, sale of rental, prior year carryovers, amended tax return, F-bar, and like lots of information here, including even accrued interest and bonds. Oh my gosh, this course looks really good, and multi-states, oh, it looks really nice. And in the end, you'll see like a complex 1040 preparation, and I will have a final tax assessment. So the way it's structured, you'll receive a you'll have a video. It will be like between 5 to 15 minutes video, depends on the topic. Some topics longer, some topics shorter, and I'll get into details on tax preparation, on a tax theory, and how to use CCH Axcess. After that, you will have a questions like this that you can answer, and it will have my explanation what is actually, why the answer is correct or not correct, like very detailed explanation. Some questions will have a video. Also, what I can offer you, you can you can email me your questions when you start working on the tax return, and I'll do my best to respond to those questions within 2 business days. So anytime you have a question, you can ask me. So unfortunately for this course, I'm not offering the like it says right here, I'm sorry, not right here in different things. There is no tax software available because for my internal issues, but in any case, you'll have unlimited access to this tax software, and when you will start working in CCH Axcess, you can go back anytime and take a look how it was done. And video is a good way to learn. Also, we'll have all these questions, so I think questions will be very helpful to make sure you understand it. And like I said, you can email me your questions as well. Awesome. Well, let's go back to the video, and thank you so much, and talk to you soon. See you on YouTube. Good luck. Alrighty, guys. So let's prepare 1040 right now. So this is how tax return looks like. So it has a couple options. I mean, not options, but functions. So for example, like we go through different parts of tax of this return. So let me show you like what I used the most. So on a home section, we have this thing recalc. So in CCH Axcess, you have to press recalc in order for calculation to be updated. Not all tax software like that, but CCH Axcess is. Actually, majority of desktop tax softwares are the same. So here, when you press recalc, you can do just federal or whatever it is, but I mean, I just usually press recalc. To print tax return, we go here and we can choose print entire tax return, sections, pages, whatever it is. Another way to print is you can go to the form and just can right click right here and do print this form, and choose if you want to print only this page or this form or things, or just supporting statements, whatever you want to print. So I usually print to PDF. So that's printed. And let's see what else. I never like, this is kind of like going through form list and worksheet and things like that, and collapse all. Honestly, never use those kind of stuff. I mean, this is something tricky, like this delete things. So for example, I have a couple states like California and whatever, some other state like, I don't know, North Carolina. And you deleted all the information for the state right here. We have the section here, states. But for some reason, you still see that North Carolina or California is the ones you wanted to delete. And it seems like you deleted all information. So you can go here and you can choose delete tax authority. And basically it will tell you to delete, it will show you a couple states. So that's, I think, is super, super useful. I didn't know about this until recently, so I found that very helpful. So honestly, I don't really use any of this kind of stuff anymore. Review. So here where diagnostics are. So we'll go into reviewing diagnostics when we prepare tax return, and I'll show you how to clear the most common ones. Overrides, if you want to take a look what actually was overwritten tax return, that's a good one. Summary, notes, e-file status, export. So this is when we e-file, we go here, e-file export. Okay, so that's useful. View is, I mean, if you want to change the view, the forms, things like that, right? So it's just kind of like adjusting your view and make it whatever you prefer. Split return, version description, you can update, return history, take a look, update status. So that's kind of, so all this stuff is for tax return management. So if you have a big firm and you come up with the processes in place, so this is where you go and update status. So for example, you can choose as, you can sign off on tax return and you can move that tax return to somebody else for review or for clearing comments, you name it. Import export. So if you prepare the K1 data in CCH Axcess, you can go here and do K1 export from other returns or from Excel schedule. But I usually use it from other returns like 1065 and stuff like that. Fixed asset export. So those are very cool. GL bridge. So that's also like kind of like export from different kind of stuff. BNA is a planning tool. Let's see, I mean, honestly, haven't used that except K1 export. And help, obviously, if you need help with tax return, with forms, so that's where we go. All right, so another cool thing about CCH Axcess that I really like, when I prepare tax return, I usually review what the federal refund and California refund or whatever the payment due is. So that's helpful because, okay, let's say I enter tax return and I'm still in preparation, but if I see here's like a huge amount or too small of amount, I'm kind of like worried. So that's like a quick way to see whatever changes you make tax return to the tax return. This will change. All right, so then let's take a look at the other parts. So we have worksheets right here. Let me show you how all this kind of stuff looks like. So we have worksheets here. So that's where we enter information, right? So there is a source where we enter information, then it goes to the forms right here. So here's all our forms. So we have federal and state right here. And I honestly haven't used groups ever, never. I don't know what groups are, so I guess we don't need to talk about groups because that's just something, the person who used CCH Axcess for more than 5 years never used it, so I think that is not as important. So that's what we need. So we need worksheets for entering information, forms to review information, and diagnostics to see what diagnostics we need to clear. And then we e-file tax return and we go under review and then e-file. That's kind of this is all the sections we use, and that's basically what everybody uses. Alrighty, so cool, let's go now. So I'll just go with let's see what sections we have in here under worksheets. And those are pretty straightforward. If you ever prepare tax return or if you have idea how to prepare tax return, you can see it. They are in order in which our 1040 is. So on 1040, we have income section. Then we have obviously itemized deduction section. We have tax credits, payments, and whatever amount due we have. So it's the same here. So we'll start with general information, income section, deduction section, which is usually itemized deductions, taxes, payment, credit, things like that. So they all right here. And also we have states. So let's start with this basic information. So I assume that the client that I'm preparing tax return for is from California. So when I prepare tax return, I start with looking at prior year tax return. So I open, for example, now I'm preparing, well, let's assume it's 2023, but I opened 2022. So I'm looking at prior year tax return and what information I need from prior tax return. I need the name, obviously. I need social security number, date of birth, not necessarily presented on 1040. I mean, it's just not presented on a 1040. But if you prepare California return, the date of birth, you can find it on prior year tax return on the first page on 540 right here. So this is California tax return and you'll see the date of birth. If you don't have that information, take a look at organizer or ask the client. So also obviously for a spouse, we need the same information: name, social security, date of birth. You can look at organizer or state tax return. State of tax return, that's usually when we have occupations. So that's from prior year tax return. And let me show you where it's going to show up on prior year tax return. So I look at all this kind of stuff and I'm copying this information. I copy, if there's any dependents, I copy that information. Date of birth of dependents, it's not going to show up on federal or state tax return. You have to ask the client. Then I kind of review what numbers they had last year. So after I prepare tax return, I go back and I ask them for any open items that are missing. So occupations are usually right here. Occupations, right? Spouse occupations. Alrighty, so after we enter name, social security, we need to enter address. That's important. So I will just assume it's First Street apartment. Apartment actually goes right here. 1, Los Angeles, California. Sorry. And we need to input home state here. So usually we can, I think it's taken the state from our address, but if it doesn't, we need to add it here. If you're required to file a city tax return, for example, it's New York City. So that's where we put it. I just want to mention this diagnostic will show up when we clear diagnostic. So for a certain state, we need to confirm the data transferred from prior year is accurate. So after you confirm the data, you need to check this box for diagnostic to disappear. Alright, so let's just kind of review this kind of stuff. So if they had identity protection PIN, that's where it goes. We enter address. We can enter phone number here. I don't think it's required, but I think it's a good idea. Certain states require driver license. So for example, if you don't have driver license, for diagnostic to disappear, we have to enter something like no identification provided. But I think for New York City, you actually have to have driver license. So you need to ask the client. And here we go. So if there is any filing information goes right here, right? But if you have any something like different this year than most common scenarios, that's where you kind of adjust it. This is for deceased taxpayer, so not going to get into details. We enter dependents right here, right? So for dependents, what information do we need? So we need the first, last name, social security, relationship, date of birth. So those are important. And then certain things are here by default. So they assume that taxpayer living with taxpayer. If it's not, we need to adjust it, right? Okay, so those are dependents. Take a break. Alrighty, officer manager's name. This is override section. We don't care about that because we'll enter the information elsewhere. And if you need to override it, that's where it goes. Direct deposit information. So if the client wants their tax refund to be direct deposit, we check the box right here. If they want direct debit of the amount they own, we check the box right here. And we put the, we put the bank number, routing number, and account number. And in the end, we also need to check the box, confirm option. Alrighty, so let's see. US series and purchase bonds never used in my life, so I'm not sure what it goes here. Let's go. So we went through the basic data. Let's go to electronic filing. So electronic filings, there's a couple of things we need to enter here. So those are basically default. So it tells me, do we need to file extension? If you do need to file extension, you're filing extension right now, that's where you go. And so what do I usually use? So I usually go to paperless e-file and we need to enter PIN number right here. So this is not IRS protection PIN, which is like 6-digit or 5, I'm sorry. I forgot how many numbers, but it's like more numbers than this one. So I think it's 6 numbers. This is just self-selected PIN number. So this is something the client can select, or you can select for a client. So what I've seen people doing, they would just put, let's say this, I have, this is my client number, like whatever, let's say 99, I don't know, 1000. So they would just put 1000 for taxpayer and 1001 for spouse. A self-selected PIN, that's something you already set up when you when you or the company you're working for set up this electronic filing. So you just need to ask or take a look. So whatever your PIN number is, that will be for all tax return you're preparing CCH Axcess. And for here, we need to choose who entered the taxpayer's PIN. So that's all. That's kind of all we need for a paperless e-file. And then, yeah, I think that's it. I usually don't enter anything else. Here, important is prepares information. So you go here and you enter whoever the prepare information is and the company's name. All right, so I never use, so this is just depreciation option. If you want to like, you know, like print certain things, not to print, that's where we go. Notes, letters, and filings. If you would like to modify letters or filing, that's where we go. 2 years comparison. So some people love this 2 years comparisons. They would just have this information like transferred from prior year, or you can manually enter income for prior year, which is like 2021 when I'm looking at 2022 tax return. And then when you're done preparing tax return, you can print that form and you can see what changed. And that's a good way to analyze what have changed. And maybe we entered something or we missed something or you name it. Federal elections. So yeah, any elections we need to choose. This is where we go and check the box. So for example, safe harbor for small taxpayer, right? So we can just add this thing in here. Let me see, what is the ones that we usually use? Well, in any of them that you need. Alrighty, so those are elections. So you can add check the box, or you can add actual words you would like. So I think we're done with general information. Extensions. So extensions go here. We need to do extensions. We go. I'm sorry, but you see, for example, here it says suppress extension. If you need to file extension, we do mandatory extension, and then we chose it under e-file, and I think I just showed you. All right, so those are extensions. We're talking, all right, so let's get into the most exciting part. Thank you for being with me. It's income stuff. So whatever forms people receive usually, so wages. Wages, super easy to enter. So I open wages. So there's a couple ways to add documents, tax documents in CCH Axcess. So we can enter them here under summary. So for example, I do employer one. I'm sorry. Employer one, and I just do whatever the wages as they have. Let's take a look. I have this example we're going to use. So this one have 43,840 under box 1, right? And then I can just go from here. And this is kind of like a cool summary. I sometimes review this because I just want to make sure we have, like, I was just wondering, like, what is a summary? Like, so this is a good way to take a look. But the better way is to go under details and to enter all the information here. So the form looks identical as W-2. So we'll start with wages. Then we have what is important for us, federal tax. And obviously I double check if Social Security tax and Medicare tax is the same, because it can be different, can be calculated on a different amount. If you have like 300,000 here, then this will be limited to 186 or something like that thousand, so it will be still smaller. All right, so what do we need to enter? So employer identification number is a must because it will give us diagnostics. Important hint, if you enter the EIN number incorrectly in e-file tax return, you'll get reject. So then you'll have to change it in e-file again. So I guess this kind of stuff is important, unfortunately. Or, I mean, that's just what it is. Address for employer. So every time we enter information, we need to identify if the document, the income or deduction belongs to taxpayer or a spouse. The way to see who is taxpayer, who is a spouse, because sometimes, I mean, we can enter one or another and we can switch them around. So taxpayer, whoever entered right here, spouse is right here. And the same under 1040. Taxpayer would be entered, I mean, obviously under taxpayer and spouse right here. But sometimes it's not obvious because we don't remember who actually went under a taxpayer or a spouse. So important things. Why it's important, especially for W-2s, because excess Medicare, if you enter for taxpayer, the excess Medicare will be calculated, but in reality one way W-2 was for taxpayer, one for spouse, so it shouldn't be any excess of Medicare or things like that. So important to identify and make sure it is what it is. When I prepare tax return, I take a look at this form. I make sure it's matching whatever I have here, the name, social security number, all kind of stuff. Because accidentally, when we prepare tax return, we can pick up the kids' W-2s that technically are non-taxable if they made below threshold or things like that. So make sure you check social security is a name and you choose if it's taxpayer or a spouse. Alrighty, so we just match all the boxes on W-2. Super easy, looks exactly like W-2. So here we have a state. We need to enter employer state ID right here. That's also important because in that case, state tax return will be rejected. State income tax. So we have this income tax and we have SDI in amount of 483. So I'll show you how to enter that as well. And that can be not only applicable to California, it can be any tax return. So local tax, locality name, we enter California SDI here. And for state use, I'm sorry, here is our state disability insurance, which is what? 2444. And honestly, I'm not sure if locality name is entered here or for state use, but it will give me diagnostic, so I'll delete one or another. I think it goes actually here, California SDI, because we enter it under state disability insurance, so it kind of knows it's SDI. So that's how we enter W-2. Not too hard, right? And if you need to enter another one, we can just go here. I mean, we can just enter it right here, but if we need more than 4, we just go plus add here or delete if we need to. Insert, let's see, export. Well, so that's that's W-2s. Okay, let's see what else is here. Interest income. So if you receive 1099 interest, right? So if you don't know where to enter certain things, we can also search here. But I think it's just so easy to find things in CCH Axcess, so it is not a problem for you. I'm sure it won't be a problem. So 1099 interest. So here we have this like whatever 1099 interest for $87, box 1. So we go under, oopsie, I'm so sorry. I also go under 1099 interest, enter who is the payer, the interest income. I believe for 1099 interest, I don't know if you need to worry about payer tax ID number. I just don't recall if it generates diagnostic or not, but in any case, let's just enter it. For W-2 for sure. I think for 1099 interest, it can be the same. So we enter interest income the same in box 1, and we need to enter address the same. Also, we need to identify if it belongs to taxpayer or a spouse or it's a joint. For interest, honestly, I don't think it makes a big difference, but it might in certain cases. So I would just do it as a practice for each of them. And you know what? It's also a good idea because sometimes we can get 1099 interest for somebody else and we accidentally enter it for our taxpayer. So I would choose whichever taxpayer spouse, double check their social security, and if the year they send us form is correct here, because I mean different things happen. So that's 1099 interest, 1099 dividends, we can enter right here. So here's our example. We have ordinary income, qualified dividends, and it's from State Farm Balanced Fund. and here where ordinary and qualified dividends goes, right? And we can also show it under details. This is very unusual. I'm sorry, where did I see it? It's kind of unusual 1099 dividends, but it usually looks more like 1099 interest, so it's the same form. So it's 4,522 and 3,033. I might just made a mistake in those numbers, but for our presentation doesn't matter. All right, consolidated 1099s. What is consolidated 1099? So when we receive those like huge 20 pages 1099s from Charles Schwab or TD Ameritrade, so that's consolidated 1099s. So here is, if you can see, we have a couple things. We have 1099 dividends, 1099 interest, 1099B. So two ways of entering it. We can still enter it under 1099 dividends, separated 1099 interest, and then we can enter our capital gains under Schedule D right here. So we can just choose to enter it right here. So that's one way. But honestly, I love these consolidated things. So here we also have 1099 dividends, 1099 interest, and capital gains. So we can just enter all of it in the same place, and it will go to different places on our tax form. So I think honestly this is the best. So I would recommend you to do that. So let's start. So this one will be a little bit bigger, but I think that will be useful for us. So the taxpayer is Charles Schwab. The account number is 12345, and we'll start with entering ordinary dividends, right? So let's go. Let's see if I can just, no, that's fine. I'm just gonna go back and forth. So taxpayer name, sorry. Account number. Also, we need to choose if it's for taxpayer or spouse. Also important because sometimes they can receive 1099 for their trusts. And for their trust, they should be picked up under their trust, not personal tax returns. So I usually double check Social Security and a name on 1099 dividends. I'm sorry, on consolidated 1099 or any form we receive. I always check the Social Security, and I always check the, what is that called? The name and the year, of course. So box 1B is qualified dividends. So we enter it the same way under 1B. Then we go under total capital distributions, 2B, so we do the same. I try to manually never enter any numbers because we all humans, we all make mistakes, so I would rather copy and paste. Box 5, section 199 dividends, so those would be included for QBI deduction. And then we have foreign tax paid. So for foreign tax paid, I'm actually really glad it is included in this example, because if we, oh, I'm sorry, here you go. Foreign tax paid. If we have foreign tax paid, to calculate foreign income tax, foreign tax credit, we need to have foreign income. Or let me rephrase it. If we have foreign taxes, it means it was withheld from some kind of foreign income. And for foreign tax credit, we need to enter that information. So here is a foreign information section. So we enter the country code. We can take a look and see what country exactly they had withholdings from, or we can just enter other country, and that will work as well. For category, I would choose passive income because it's dividend, so it's passive income. And now we have to take a look what is it a foreign ordinary and qualified dividends. So here's our foreign tax, and usually in the end of the statements they have a summary. So like this one has a foreign income tax summary, and here's our foreign dividends. And I'm not sure if it's qualified or not, so let me just take a look. So I would just memorize which emerging markets, JP Morgan, self-driving, iShares. So iShares is related to foreign taxes, right? So I would take a look under dividends. Oh, here you go. They all iShares. I think they ordinary income. Yes. So they all qualified because I can see under qualified dividends. Well, I need to double check because I'm not sure. So this is, and I'll explain you in a second. So I need to identify because I know those are ordinary dividends, but I don't know the amount for qualified dividends. So what I have to do, I have to go under details and take a look if those shares, let's see, page 17. So for example, we have emerging market, iShares emerging market, if they were qualified. So here we have emerging markets, right? And now let me take a look at their qualified. We don't have emerging market. Okay, so I guess it's not qualified. Then let me check a second one, JP Morgan. Sorry. So I see it right here, but under qualified, I also... Oh, I see an underqualified emerging market. My bad. I'm sorry. So some of it is actually qualified, but not all, because here's our ordinary income, right? And second one was this JP Morgan, and those are not qualified. And let's see, what is another one was? Emerging markets, and then we have self-driving EV. So for self-driving EV, we have this amount, very small amount, and let's see if there's any of them is underqualified. Yes, they are qualified. Okay, cool. So the qualified, so self-driving, and that first one is actually qualified one. So basically, why I was looking at this, so it's important for us, I'm sorry, I hope I didn't lose you here. So we'll start with entering this information from our summary. So this is what ordinary income, right? Now, and I'll show you a really cool things. It's actually right here, if you click it, it has a list. So list means that we can enter two numbers and we'll just add up for us. So it's actually really cool. So anyways, so let's go back. So I think we just double check that this amount will be qualified. And let's take a look again. And I remember that another one is emerging markets. It was right here of qualified. So this amount under qualified dividends. And let me just make sure there is no this JP Morgan, whatever EM. JP Morgan, no, it's not there. Okay, cool. So this is what we need to enter. So qualified dividend will be a little bit less. So this is our total ordinary income. We got it from like this huge summary that we just take a look in the end of the statement, page number 17. Then I went back to qualified versus ordinary income and double checked what was qualified income and enter it there. So now we need to enter date taxes paid. So I enter the end of the year. This is also very important because we need to find explain if they were entered or not. Okay, cool. All right. Let's take a take a break, maybe grab a coffee or water, whatever it is. That was maybe a lot to consume for somebody who preparing tax return for a first time, but good job. All right, so let's take a look. So we're done. We are done with 1099 dividends. We enter all the information here, and we also enter foreign income. So that's awesome. Then we go to second form. So here we have the second form called 1099 interest, right? So we have it right here. So it goes under box 1. Awesome. And that's all we have under this form, box 1. Cool. And then we have this form 1099B. So what it shows, it's proceeds from broker transactions. So it's all sales and cost of those. For example, I had like 5 stocks of Apple that I purchased 2 years ago and I sold it. So it will show me like Apple, how many stocks I sold, the date I purchased, date acquired, date sold, proceeds I received now and how much the cost was back in the day. So everything I sold within a year will be under short term, and everything after the year after long-term purchases. And they're taxed differently. Short-term gains as an ordinary income, long-term gains as a capital gains, which are like 0, 15, and 25%, depends on how much the person makes. Well, so this is our details. So what I can do, I can enter each of them separately, or I would just do what I would do. I would go to summary. So here's we have our summary. Here it is for all of them. This is summary. This is all it has. And it doesn't have any adjustments. It all cost basis is reported to IRS. So what I would do, I would just enter summaries, because sometimes, like in this case, we don't have that many, but sometimes we have like 20 pages of sales and we're not going to enter all of them. So what I would do, I would enter Charles Schwab, name of the statement, whatever it is, account number, as reported. So this is as reported on a statement. I would enter sales price, and I want to enter cost basis, and then date acquired. So I'll show you in a second. So term I would enter long term, and for us basis reported to IRS. Under date sold and date purchase, it's up to you. I usually enter for long term, so it shows up under various. You can enter like, for example, 9/9, and that will show up under various. It will show up various dates on our tax return. Sorry. Oh, it doesn't want to. Okay, I guess I'll enter the last day of that year. So, some people ask me a question like, do we need to attach? Sometimes they say, there is a way, like, okay, if there is any adjustments here or the cost basis is not reported to IRS, then we need to attach 1099B. In this case, because it's all reported, we do not need to attach 1099B. We can just summarize it, and that's it. So that's all. So now sometimes I want to double check myself. I want to go to Schedule D and make sure I have this 43,946 as a loss on Schedule D. Here you go. And this capital distribution is coming from 1099 dividends. Okay, awesome, perfect. I'm really happy about this. So we just did a very difficult part. So now let's quickly show you how to do 1099R. So for example, we received these distributions for 1099R. And basically what this forms tells me, it's from National Financial Services. I also need IAN, I need address, I need gross distributions. I need to check those boxes. The most important, I need this code, which is code 1, and if it was IRA or not IRA. So pretty much everything is on the form. I also copy the same way. So the amount is 18,387. To enter 1099R, I go under IRA pensions and 1099R, and I just enter this here. Amount, National Services, then I also choose if it was for taxpayer and a spouse. We need to enter EIN, address, all the boxes that we have at 1099Rs, they're important. So distributions code, so sometimes we have G, so this case we had 1, and it also depends on taxability, so those are important. I'll record a separate video on taxability of retirement distribution, but this is kind of how we enter it. All right, let's see what else is interesting. Itemized deduction I'll do in a second, so I'll show you Schedule C as well. Schedule C. So if the client has a business, like let's say if they have this business, business income, expenses, well, I'm not going to get into many details. I'll just show you like example where to enter it. So Schedule C. So for example, they have a business, a side gig, right? A company. So we start with what they do. So let's say they do marketing on a side. And the address will copy from a main tax return from, I'm sorry, for general information, but if it's different, we enter it here. Then we choose like if we need to add any, if the business has a name, if it's registered, it had EIN, that's where we enter it. Inventory options, if you need to, like any kind of stuff, business code. So all this kind of, though all these things are mandatory, we do need to enter them. The diagnostics will appear if you don't enter them. And here we go. We entered receipts. So for example, we have 10,000. And here under expenses, we enter expenses. So for example, we had 5,000, I'm sorry, of advertisement expenses. And then here's we enter auto information if you have any, and depreciation. So let me just open it very quickly and go over it. So here we enter auto expenses, business mile, and then actual expenses. And the software will choose whichever is higher. The mileage by mileage method, by multiplying business mileage by whatever IRS mileage rate is that year, or actual expenses, right? So that's how it works. And I'm sure you know. If you don't know, I'll record a separate video on this. And depreciation will also go in here. So if let's say we got computers, our client got computer for their business, so that's where they should depreciate that computer. So we'll start with entering like computer as an name of the description of the assets, the date was placed in service, a method. So for something like computer, it will be like let's choose this one. Or whatever, let's choose this one, and I can go over depreciation method later. 5 years for computers, and cost, let's say it's a cost $1,000. All right, so that's kind of how we enter all kind of stuff. Here's also business use of home. We also enter it under Schedule C. And let me see what else is super useful. I think that's kind of it. Everything else not so useful. All right, so we went through Schedule C. Schedule D. Okay, cool. Let's see what is here. So as I just explained, if you don't want to enter certain things under consolidated 1099, we can enter it right here. It has the same entry. Capital loss carryovers go here. If you sell a home, that's kind of while calculation is happening. Installment sales have, like, we rarely see it, but this is a section for it and all this kind of stuff. Here's where rental income goes, so it's Schedule E. We have a separate section, and here are the K1 entries from S Corp, from partnership, you name it, right? Let's see what else is fun. Net operating loss, if you need to, other income. So for example, we have this Schedule C, and we received another 5,000 income from 1099. So you can enter that 5,000 separately under Schedule C as an income, or you can enter it right here and choose whichever Schedule C or Schedule F or Schedule E you want to attach it to. If no 1099 received, but you want to add like other income, you can also check the box and enter like other income, like whatever amount is. So this is the form you can use, and it flows directly to whichever statement you want. That's the choice of yours. Deductions. So deductions. Here we have employee business deduction. We can enter HSA, distributions, SEP contributions, student loan, things like that. So I'm just going to quickly go under over itemized deductions. So here we enter medical expenses, right? Then we have taxes paid, which is real estate is the most common, and we have personal property tax, which is DMV and stuff like that. Mortgage interest, so we have details. Under details, we can have exactly the same view as 1099 dividends, and we enter it here. Don't forget, if it's over 750K or $1 million, depends on the year, as they had mortgage in, we should enter it elsewhere because the mortgage interest limitation. You can deduct the mortgage interest over 750K in loan balance. Anything above 750K in their mortgage loan liabilities is not deductible. So to enter that, we go under mortgage interest deduction worksheet, right? All right, so contributions. Contributions go here, and then miscellaneous deduction. Those things are important. So that also can be our Charles Schwab advisement fees, and make sure to check this investment expense box right here. So it goes, it's not deductible under federal, but it is deductible under state. Non-cash contributions, if we have non-cash contributions over 500, so we need to fill up this form 8283. And I guess this is cool. I mean, not cool, maybe it is cool, but important, estimated payments paid. So we need to enter amount, and we need to enter the date it was entered. Whichever date it was entered. I'm sorry, I'm just entering like 2023 and 2022 tax return, but you got the idea, right? And it was probably paid in 2021. Well, let's see, foreign F bars, that's where we fill up. We can take a look at our foreign tax credit, and that's kind of it. And then under states, what do we usually use the states for? I mean, honestly, like majority of information should flow from your federal, but if you have like let's say they moved from one state to another, or they have some credits related to the state, so we enter it under state tax information. Alrighty, so let's take a look at the form, and I'll just explain you how I reconcile 1040 to tax return, tax software to what I entered. So I mean, I usually would like to fill up the work paper, so I'm just going to show you what I have. So I have something very similar to 1040, but I fill this work paper in different like places, different tabs, and eventually, so for example, if I enter wages here, I enter my regular interest here, eventually it should all flow to my 1040. And in the end of the day, sorry, not sure why wages, I guess I didn't enter it in correct place, I'm sorry. Let's do 100K. And I usually, when I'm done with a tax return, I review Excel and I compare it to my tax work paper, and I make sure each box under under 1040 matches my Excel work paper. If it doesn't, I go back and take a look in both places, Excel, obviously source documents, and tax return, and see why they're not matching. Because the thing is, like, it might seem like a waste of time to enter things in two places, but believe me, it's to avoid the mistakes, because most likely you're not gonna enter you're not gonna make the same mistake twice. So like, let's say here you enter 40,000, but there like you missed one or another, like you missed federal withholdings. So you'll somehow you will catch it if you compare it to Excel work paper. So that's my recommendation. So here we review our tax return, make sure everything looks okay for us, and then obviously we look at federal, California refund right here, and diagnostics. So after we're done, it's going to show us all our diagnostics. So all this electronic filing diagnostic, that's something we need to clear before we e-file. And then cautious diagnostics, we don't need to clear. This is something we can sign off on, but I recommend reviewing them to make sure it's all correct. So after we're done with diagnostics, I would like to see like 0 here, right? And that will show us certain mistakes we made, or just something that program wants us like to check the box, like I showed you at the beginning of the video. So, and that's it. And then we can go under view, and e-file tax return, right? Export, and that will actually take us to places to e-file tax return. Well, I hope this was helpful for you. So I'm just gonna go over my programs, the online course I'm selling on CCH Axcess right now. But in any case, I hope that was helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions. Please comment below, and I'll make sure to answer all the questions you will have. And good luck. Enjoy working in CCH Axcess as I do. Thank you. Well, thank you for watching this long video. I hope you learned a lot and will make your tax season much easier. If you have any questions with online course, without online course, doesn't matter. Please feel free to email me or message me below, and I'll make sure to answer your questions as soon as possible. And good luck to you, to your practice. I'll see you in YouTube. Thank you so much.